So I had a very high voice, had a very soft face, and I was just hyper aware that I came across as feminine and was constantly getting misgendered. And I was like, okay, well, I need to be more masculine. So I started not really talking about my mental health and like pulling away from friends and being like quite distant physically with people. And I really missed it because, as I said earlier, like being tactile with friends is it's a big part of who I am. It's a big part of um yeah, the way that I connected people and the way that like my friends and I would hang out and talk. So it took me starting testosterone and being more honest with my friends and making friends with more trans men, and trans people in general to start thinking, actually, no, this is fine. And one of the interesting things I discovered after about 6 months on testosterone, so about a year ago now, I started being quite tactile and physically affectionate with my male friends. And there was immediately, when I was in public, there was immediately a level of fear and danger present to it. And the best comparison I can draw is when I used to be physically affectionate with girls, as a lesbian at the time. There was a lot of like sexualized staring and a lot of unwanted attention, but which was threatening in its own way. But I didn't actually think anything would happen. So sometimes you'd stop holding hands or you just walk away. But being affectionate with male friends, when now I like constantly appear masculine, and so do they. There was this immediate level of danger. Actually, we need to stop holding hands or leaning on each other or do this because actually I think that guy's going to come over here and punch us. And that was something that was quite difficult for me to grasp. Where actually being a man makes you almost a target for more physical forms of violence to like in terms of being queer, where okay, well, you can take a punch now, whereas there's that level of okay, you wouldn't punch a girl. And that was something very difficult for me to come to terms with, and it's still something that I struggle with my male friends. It's something I'm getting better with, but yeah, there is always a level of self-preservation because you can't really stop people from doing that. You just have to be more proud of yourself, and it's difficult, but that is something where it's been difficult for me to process. Okay, well, my masculinity is now putting me in a dangerous position because being affectionate with my male friends makes me less masculine, but also puts me more in danger. So it's definitely a difficult area that. Um, but as I've come along with transitioning, like I've had a big thing in the trans community is gender affirming, being gender affirming care, which is like HRT and all that sort of stuff. But it's basically feeling affirmed in your gender identity. So there's a lot of positivity about masculinity and femininity and what it means to you and how you express it, your gender expression. So there's lots and lots of joy in transitioning, which is affectionately called trans joy by the community, and a lot of it comes into masculinity. So like there's a lot of like videos of when you're starting tea, of your voice dropping, of when you were starting to get a beard, all these like little like physical things that are to do with being masculine and transitioning, that are celebrated, which are usually, as an awkward teenage phase, like you'd ignore it and like, oh no, I've got like a couple whiskers or something. Yay, I've got a couple whiskers. Like, and like sharing all these like joyous things with your friends. It's really lovely. And there's lots around like saying, okay, I'm a man and I'm proud of it, which is quite a difficult thing to say. Um, but when you're transitioning, there's so much support from your friends and family if you're lucky, to be like, I know you are a man. Like this is a good thing, and we're proud of you. And it's so lovely to be treated with that level of respect and be like, no, being a man is a good thing. Because again, like when I was growing up, and even with some of my queer and trans friends now, there's that sentimentality of men are awful, men are bad, especially like dating men. Because at this point, I'm bisexual, by the way. So like I've started dating boys and that sort of thing, and I've had queer friends be like, "Oh, why would you date men? Men are awful." Um, and I've had to kind of be like, well, let's check ourselves here, because it's a terrible mentality that's easy to slip into, where you have this like, oh, men are awful, they're like, it's dangerous. When you actually stop, like, no, it's because we're looking at it that way. Yes, there are definitely men who will weaponize their masculinity and there's a lot of violence, and we need to be aware of these things. But it's not a mutually exclusive thing. Like if we want to be good men, then let's be good men. It's like and I know it makes it sound too simple, but like this conversation I've been having with my queer friends and my friends who are trans men, it's just like, okay, well, we can't paint men as being awful, because we are men too. Like, well, let's be good examples of men. So yeah, there's a lot of that. Just making sure I've not missed anything. Yeah, so another thing it's worth mentioning about transitioning is masculinity comes with responsibility, and an awareness of your place in society. There's just no secret, and this is something that really I really noticed the difference having grown up as a woman, and now being a man, is society just treats you a lot more favorably. And I know that we know that on a surface level, but it's little things like walking down the street, men, before I transitioned, men would just walk straight at me. But now, like, they might actually move out the way, or people will let me speak in a meeting. It sounds terrible, but there's lots of like subconscious things where women are just talked over constantly, and are just like take up less space in the world, and are just not given the same opportunities. And there's lots of those little like social microaggressions that just disappear when I started properly presenting as a man, which like I'm now really conscious of. So like I know like the fear of being a woman and walking alone at night. So I will now cross the street. There's lots of little things like that which can make women feel much more comfortable, that I just know how to do. And another like uncomfortable thing that I've become aware of is there's a lot more like what I'm gonna call locker room talk that I'll now get like included in on, where I'm just like, whoa, what are you on about? Whether it's like there's like a casual level of like talking about sexualizing women, where I'm just like, whoa, people are people, guys. It's one of those things. It's quite hard to like. It's quite difficult and quite scary to be like, hey, this is wrong. Why are we talking like this? Because obviously there's a level where banter is okay, but let's not take down anybody with it. Like we can have a joke, but not at the expense of other people. So it's quite difficult to have those conversations, but it's necessary. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for using masculinity for positivity, and I've seen a lot of it, like helping others and making sure that we care for each other and championing each other and looking after each other's mental health. I've seen masculinity be used for lots of good things, and as much as it can be weaponized, I think we're starting to move towards a very positive environment for masculinity. But how has it been for you, Joe, as an adult?
Thank you. So yeah, we're back in 1993. I've come out. So sixth form was great. I had lots of friends, most of them girls. Still all friends now. Went off to uni, didn't last long at all, having far too good a time, dropped out. Worked the gay scene for a couple of years and decided I need to get a real job. So I've been very much in a gay world for a couple of years. And so, you know, I didn't ever have to mask or hide who I was. It was fine. But I decided I need to get a real job. So I saw an advert to become a guard on the Northern Line back in 1997. And I was immediately thrust into a very alien world. As we all know, rail is a very male place. And all of a sudden, I'm sat in a mess room, age of 20, with all of that kind of banter, all of like the locker room talk, just insidious, constant. There were like a handful of women drivers, but as soon as they stepped out of the room, the mood had changed, the conversation had changed. And actually, often, even if they were sat in a room, people didn't seem to care. So I definitely did not feel safe being out and gay there. So I immediately went back in the closet, and all of these techniques and mechanisms for masking, I never cared about football before. I was not that kid. All of a sudden I had to like have this newfound love of football, and actually bizarrely it did take over my life, and I ended up with a season ticket. And you know, so it is strange when you make such great efforts to kind of fit in and not be a target, like how far you can almost like subconsciously take it. So that was me then. I was acutely aware of the fact that the line I was on, not that it was anything, particularly homophobic about it compared to any other line, but I certainly didn't feel safe being me and authentic there. But I heard about this mysterious, wonderful depot on the district line called Parsons Green that was the pink depot. And so as soon as I was no longer a guard and qualified as a driver, I put my name down to go to Parsons Green, and it was like night and day. Walked in there, loads and loads of out gay drivers. I could be myself, I could be authentic, I didn't have to mask. And I credit that and that environment with me being able to kind of flourish, because so many LGBTQ plus people, when they change job or even change role, they go back into the closet. They don't feel safe. So it's very, very difficult if you're having to constantly mask or be somewhat evasive about what you got up to at the weekend. It's very difficult to kind of really flourish and be yourself and kind of, crack on and apply for that role. And, it's such a handbrake on so many people. So I really kind of credit that, being in an environment where you can be authentic and be yourself, and I guess not be afraid. And I'm gonna, and we were really, really conscious. We didn't want this to be a kind of, we hate masculine men, men's men. It's not that at all. But I think even if you've had a couple of negative experiences at some point, then you're cautious and you don't want to take that risk. So you walk into a room, bunch full of new people, you kind of do have to risk assess and think, would coming out cause many problems here? And you do kind of, because if you do have the option of turning it on and off, because it's a learned skill, then you often do choose to turn it off until you feel that it's safe to turn it back on again. And so, yeah, it is absolutely from, judging the room, and it is your hang-ups. But if you have been burnt, and certainly out in public, I think very much playing back to your point, I've never been affectionate to my husband in public. We've been together like 23 years now. I would never dare to, just because I've become, target of physical hate twice out on public transport before we met, just because I was being affectionate to the person I was with then. So once bitten, twice shy. Why would you put yourself at risk? So, I didn't want this to be a kind of, people should feel ashamed of being men. Absolutely not. Look, I'm a gay man. I love men. I like being a man. Masculinity is my thing. It's great. It is a wonderful thing. But I think just very much, kind of back to your point, it is about just being aware of the power of it. It's a very powerful thing. And it can be used with great positivity, or it can be toxic. So yeah, and I think, having thought about it is a really difficult question. Like, how do you define what masculinity actually is? And I think when I thought about it, I just want to be truly masculine. I just want to be the hero to other people. So just as I would fall in love with the hero of the film when I was like 7 or 8, I want to be that guy to other people, like make a positive, powerful change to people's lives. So that's what it kind of means to me. How about you?
Yeah, it is a very difficult question, and I've thought about it a lot, especially as identifying as a man, and thinking, okay, I was asked a lot, like, well, why do you need to transition? Why do you want to be a man? Why would you need to be a man? And it's a very difficult question to answer, because you just know. And so when I transitioned and started embracing my masculinity, I took it very much as, being somebody who's caring, being somebody who's reliable, being there for my friends, for my family, and yeah, linking back to yours, being that kind of hero for people and being open and honest to who I am. And I'm also autistic, and amusingly got diagnosed pretty much immediately after transitioning. So there was a benefit there to transitioning, definitely. Autistic people, autistic men are much more likely to be caught and diagnosed. Caught makes it sound bad, but diagnosed than autistic women. There was an element of like, oh, I've been masking all my life. I want to be true to myself, and help other men be true to themselves too. So yeah, that's pretty much what masculinity means to me. We asked you earlier what you think masculinity means to you. Have we got anybody who wants to share what they think masculinity is to them or in general?